Welcome to That 80s Show. It's a great time of year for Dory and I because everywhere you go, Last Christmas is playing in every aisle of every store, Dory.
I actually found something. I found something online last night because I don't know if you've seen it. In fact, we have discussed this exact thing before on the show at this time of year. I've just sent you something on WhatsApp. So have a look.
Dory just sent me the rules of Reverse Wham Ageddon. Now, Reverse Wham Ageddon, don't get excited. It's not a sexual position that George Michael invented in the 80s, okay? Wham Ageddon is a game that idiots play, right? Where they try to see how far into December. Idiots, Dory. Just say it, call them idiots. Idiots, right?
Also, heathens, total heathens. And not in a good way.
Heathens if you want, maybe strong. So this is what idiots play, where they try to get through as far into December as they can without hearing Last Christmas by Wham. Now, that is a stupid thing. I don't know why you do it. Sacrilegious. But there is a game now called Reverse Wham Ageddon that Dory just sent me. Dory, do you want to go through some of the rules? There are 7 rules. Let's alternate. You start one and we'll alternate through them.
Just to give context, we know that the rules of actual Whamageddon is you've got to go as long as possible without hearing Last Christmas, as we just said. So the rule for this, number 1, is the player must try and hear Wham's Last Christmas as many times as possible.
Already won.
I know you've already won.
Okay.
But it start. You'll see the next point tells you when the date range of the game.
So now I rotate listening to Last Christmas. I like to watch the YouTube video. There's the 4K release. I mean, you got to watch it. George Michael, his hair is fantastic. They got cable cars. He's got a fantastic fur coat. Listen, I know nowadays you can't wear fur. In the 80s, you could wear fur. George Michael had it on his body and on his head, right?
I bet you it was fake fur.
Maybe it was fake fur. It was fake fur.
Yes,
there were fake loving glances.
Because I imagine that George loves the animals.
Because what was fake is him pretending to love the girls in the video. Okay, that was definitely fake, right?
Indeed.
So, but after a casual sesh, a casual Last Christmas sesh, you see the view counts on YouTube. And if you watch a YouTube video, you don't notice it going up. I notice it. I notice it going up.
Yes.
Right? I can see the impact that I've made. So number 2 is the game starts at midnight on the 1st of December. It ends at 23:59 on the 24th of December. It is now acceptable. So you then got to listen to Last Christmas, all of Christmas Day, and all of Boxing Day. Then on the 27th, you can start listening to Europe Final Countdown. Okay, so this is your day's grace. Right, okay. So rule number 3 of Reverse Wham Ageddon.
Rule number 3, Paulo, might put a little bit of a spoke in your wheel because we know how much you like the pudding mix. So rule number 3 says only the original version of Last Christmas will give you points. The player can listen to remixes and covers of the song if they wish, but you will score no points.
You see, I dispute that because the pudding mix is not a remix. It's an extended version of the original song. It is not a cover or a remix. So pudding mix still counts.
Actually, you're right. You're right.
I got you. I got you on that. Now, if you don't know, and you don't listen to Last Christmas pudding mix, it's like you go, Last Christmas, I love it. I've heard it so many times. I wish I could hear it for the first time. Pudding mix is like hearing it for the first time. It's a whole extra minute of George Michael going la 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 la. It's great. It's fantastic. So I'm covered. Pudding mix counts. Okay. Right. So rule number 4 of Reverse Wham Ageddon, the player gets 10 points as soon as they recognize the original version of the song. This is cumulative. And by the end of the game, 23:59 and 24th December, a total can be declared. So what is it? As soon as you hear the little chime, ding, ding, that, you're in.
Yes. You got
because it's not
10 points.
Yep, 10 points. Oh, that's so easy. That's so easy. Now, do you accumulate your 10 points listening from start to finish or only when you hear that beginning?
They haven't gone into that much detail. They haven't.
You see,
but let's get to rule number 5. Yeah, well, these people are as prepared as we are for our show. So what can happen?
Right. Okay. Yes.
Rule number 5. The player may, if they wish, post #Reverse Wham Ageddon on social media each time they win some points and their final score at the end of the game. I mean, how else are you keeping score? In your head? We're too old for that. Where are we writing this down?
I'm just going to go. What's the highest score in the history of Reverse Wham Ageddon? I've definitely got 10 more points than that. I've definitely got 10 more points.
You're declaring yourself the winner regardless.
Like, you cannot beat me. Reverse Wham. You don't know. I listened to the song from February. Okay.
I know.
Number 6.
Yeah, but it doesn't count. It only counts in December. That's the point.
Okay. Players can send it to other players if they want. They can wrap it up and send it with a note saying, with a note attached saying, "Oh, they've meant it," right? They can send it to another player and prank them with Wham to inadvertently give them Wham points. Why would you prank people with Wham? That's disgusting behavior. You gift
it's like Rick rolling, but it's Wham rolling.
Wham rolling. No, that's a silly. Why would anybody go, "Oh, this person sent me Wham"? Like, you send someone, "Oh, fuck, this person loves me." How much do they love me? They just send me Wham. So that's disputable.
Look,
that's a very disputable
I have some friends who would not be happy if I sent them Wham. But
no,
we're still friends anyway. I'm very tolerant.
I'm gonna make you retake that. I have some people that I know that would not like, not friends. They're not these are not friends of yours, Dory. Okay. A non-Wham loving friend is not a friend.
It is law.
Just you know what? I think we glossed over that. A non-Wham loving friend is not a friend. Okay. Remember, a friend who wants you to take drugs is not your friend. Same thing.
I want it embroidered on a cushion, and you can wrap it up and send it. Okay.
Wrap it up and send it.
Final rule number 7. Players don't get points for playing it at themselves. The point of the game is for it to find you and give you some happy. Enjoy. See, Paulo, that has put a spoke in your wheels. Yep.
That has put a little lump of coal in my Christmas stock.
Has indeed. It has.
A lump of Lloyd coal.
Because we know that you pleasure yourself more than most with Wham.
Don't clip that. Okay, that's fair enough. Look, I'll take that because it is the gift that keeps on giving. It has been giving for over 30 years. It is giving on the charts. It's already headed for number 1 this week, last Christmas, which worries me, which means that it won't stay.
Yeah.
No. It won't stay.
But you don't want it to be Christmas number 1. You don't want that.
But it got that. It got Christmas number 1, so it was ruined because then you could say best song ever, not to Christmas number 1. While we're on George Michael, that's great. Rules of Reverse Wham again and going up that 80 Show SA Facebook page. You people got to get back onto that page and like our stuff because we're noticing things are declining, and that's your part in the show, right? Like, share, comment. You know, that's what you got to do. That's your job, right? Because Dory and I worked very hard putting the show together. That's your job. So that's going to go. The rules of Reverse Wham again. I got a story for you. Let's jump to a great George Michael story. George Michael and Neil Tennant from Pet Shop Boys. A very scandalous headline. George Michael spat with Pet Shop Boys. Neil Tennant explained. Now, Dory, I will tell you in this headline, great use of grammar. Okay. Pet Shop Boys, great. Yes. The possessive, right. It's all there. Okay. Great use of grammar in this headline. What spat could George Michael and the Pet Shop Boys be having? Think about it. Here's what happens, right?
Yes.
So this is Neil Tennant. These are his words, right? He talks about a squabble he had with George Michael back in 2012. He said they didn't know each other that well. Now think about that, right? The Pet Shop Boys and George Michael did not know each other that well. Like, if you think, well, but you guys are so, like, I just imagine all the 80s people just lived like in a big 80s house, especially the British ones.
Yes.
They all lived in just like a big 80s house and just, right? But he said they don't know each other that well. But then you start thinking about the timelines because Pet Shop Boys became big from mid 80s on. And that's when Wham was kind of done and George was going solo. Not really, actually.
And
anyway,
probably not moving in similar circles because Pet Shop Boys are kind of low key. I mean, George Michael was doing huge stadium shows at that stage.
Yeah.
And Pet Shop Boys was doing small venues, if at all, you know?
Well, here's the crazy thing about Neil Tennant, and one thing reminded me, he was a simple journalist. He was a journalist for Smash Hits, that fantastic magazine that we had, right? And he said he did interview Wham, right, at the time, but he says there's no way they're going to remember him. Like, he obviously remembers them. So he said we actually didn't really know each other, right? Weren't friendly. So it was at the 2012 Olympics, the Olympic closing ceremony, right? So they had a big spiel, big show, have everyone there, London Olympics. And they're all sitting backstage, right? And Neil Tennant's sitting there and someone's playing music so loud. Like, he's just like, who is this? He calls his people. He says, hey, listen here. Can you please go tell whoever that is to turn his music down, right? Her music down. Go in, sort it out. Suddenly the door smashes open. George Michael's standing at the door. And he says, lovely line here. Suddenly the door flings open and George, who I hadn't seen since he had been in jail. Like, what did you have to mention? Okay. He smashes the door open. Now, this is like, I've just been in jail. He said, did you just tell me to turn my music down? I said, yes, I did. He said, well, come, give me a hug. Big fat hugs. He goes back to his room, puts on the music, plays West End Girls as loudly as he can.
Amazing.
That's a fantastic story. That is an outstanding Pet Shop Boys George Michael story.
How is the story only coming out now?
I know. It's like, you'd think like you would dine off that story for years, but Neil Tennant's just really, that story came out. Smooth FM, their website, 30th of November. That's when he tells the story. It's great. And you know what? It doesn't matter when it came out. I'm glad it came out now. We've got a show to put together every week, people. We need these stories. Hold on to the stories, release them later. They don't have to be true. They just have to be 1 week at a time. Ready for it. Exactly. 1 week at a time so that we can package it up into our show. Now, okay, I still haven't quite grasped this, what I'm going to tell you next.
Yes.
We met him, virtually met him about 2 years ago. The second biggest interview. I think he's the biggest. I think he's taken over from Air Supply, the biggest interview we've ever done. We met Thomas Anders of Modern Talking. Okay. I mean, we were besides ourselves back then. We were so happy. And it was everything you wanted it to be, right, Dory? Lovely guy. Met him.
It was so exciting.
I mean, spoke to us about his summers in Ibiza with Sandra. I mean, we didn't expect that, right? And then to corroborate, when we met Hadaway and spoke to him, and we said, hey, no, we've just done an interview with Thomas Anders. He says, oh, yeah, we hung out together at Sandra's house in Ibiza. What party is this?
Sandra gets around, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't. She stays where she is. Everyone comes to her house. She doesn't.
Everyone comes to her house in Ibiza.
In Ibiza, right? So Thomas Anders, lovely guy. We spoke to him at the time about coming to South Africa. Every South African must have gone to that Modern Talking concert at Sun City. Everybody. Because everybody goes, I was there.
Even I was there. Yeah. I can't believe that was years before we met and we were both there.
I wasn't there. I was too young.
Yeah, you were too young.
I wasn't there.
Because I was like, I don't know, 13 maybe? So you would have been very young. Yeah.
I think it was 1985. It was 1985, 1986, right? But he talks about it lovingly, fondly, loves it. You got to go watch the videos. They're on YouTube. We'll put a couple of links, right? Talks about the story, talks about love South Africa. So we said to him at the time, he tells us the story about Modern Talking, and real eye-opener, because everyone goes, Modern Talking, those two guys who sang, no, not two guys. Okay. Thomas Anders and a guy who played a guitar, because as he tells the story, he said he was a solo artist, right? The record company said, no, bands, Wham, Pet Shop Boys, duos, you got to be a duo. So they said, well, here's a guy. They didn't get along. He said he's older than him, wasn't a great guy. It ended badly. And he said, unfortunately, Modern Talking is associated with him. But so it's Thomas Anders and that blonde guy, right? Modern Talking.
The blonde guy, exactly.
And we said to him, the blonde guy, Dieter, right? We said to him, Dory said, I went. I was 13 years old. I said, I missed it. We said, it'd be fantastic. Next time you come to South Africa, hey, don't forget your friends. And of course, joking, ha ha ha, they won't come or you'll forget us. Who are we? He had gold records in his office. You can go to the video. We'll put it on YouTube. Oh, it's on YouTube. We'll put the link.
It's on YouTube.
He had gold records. It's on YouTube. It's there. We'll put the link on Facebook to YouTube. And he's got gold records in his office. He's not going to remember us. So 2 pieces of news. Firstly, Thomas Anders is heading to South Africa next year. Okay. He's going to be in Johannesburg or Gauteng on June the 8th and in Cape Town on June the 26th, right? Thomas Anders and the Modern Talking Band are on their way here. Well, not yet. They will be. He's going to go to, this is after Ibiza. Ibiza is August. So, I don't even think I've comprehended that Thomas Anders is coming here, right?
Yes, I know.
Huge.
Your reaction was very funny.
Cannot wait. Lots of concerts happening next year. Dory got OMD.
Lots.
Right?
Lots.
There's a retro concert next year. Dr. Alban, Hathaway, Modern Talking. And once that retro crew figures out, hey, there's a market in South Africa, they're all here. They're all going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
indeed.
So, put that in your brains. Thomas Anders, save some money from your Christmas bonus, 600 Rand a ticket, go. Sunbet, fantastic venue. You got to go there. You got to go see Thomas Anders be performing with Kurt Darren. It's going to be a whole thing. So I'm like, oh, fantastic. Can't wait to go. Maybe we know people. Maybe we can get some nice tickets. Maybe we'll get a photo. 2 days ago, Dory, in my inbox, I get a friend request from Thomas Anders.
But hang on. Is this the real Thomas Anders?
It's his official page, which I doubt he runs, but he's definitely said to his people, hey, we're going to South Africa. I made that guy a promise. I made them a promise.
Yes.
You friend request them. That's what I'm saying, Dory. It's from Thomas Anders' official page. I don't stalk his Facebook page or anything. I go to his website a lot because I like to see the different gifts he's selling for Christmas. He's got Christmas advent calendars. I like seeing all that stuff. Okay. So I don't stalk. I don't tag him in everything. But that he friend requested me and he went, hey, he probably made a little note. I imagine he's got a lovely personalized engraved gold pen. And when he said that, he wrote it down and he put in an envelope and a little kiss to seal it. Right? And he said, I'll remember that.
Exactly.
So it's all going to happen. You and I with Thomas Anders. I know that we have his manager's email address, right? We have contact with the promoters of this gig, right? We have contact with the media partners of this gig. And everyone that you can get that. A friend request from Thomas Anders himself. Dory, should I get myself beach ready because I'm going to get invited to Sandra's Island in Ibiza?
You're getting a bit ahead of yourself.
I got 7 months. Do some push-ups, get a bit of a wax, a spray tan, because this is where this is going. This ends with me sipping cocktails on Sandra Island in Ibiza with Thomas Anders. Maybe Hathaway will pop in. Who knows? Probably will. So very excited about that. You can get all your ticket details. Again, this is not a paid for piece. We're just fans. Public service announcement, webtickets.co.za. You can get your tickets. They promote his winery collaboration, the Thomas Anders Grauburgunder, complemented by a rosé, because he does wines. He's got a vineyard. He's cultured.
Yes.
Now, Dory, we got very excited about this next story. Okay.
Yeah.
But my God, what a stupid story. It's I really wanted the story to be better. I mean, it's really not, right? Really not. So
it's a letdown. It's a real disappointment.
Such a letdown. So super excited why Daryl Hall is suing John Oates. What? Hall and Oates? Like Hall and Oates go together like salt and vinegar. They salt and
pepper.
There's salt and lots of things. Okay. Well, salt and vinegar goes together. All right.
It does. But, making a band reference, salt and pepper.
I know. I didn't know to go there, but since you went there, like, okay, we go there. We got to push it. Right. So we're like, what is going on? And I really wanted it to be like a private eye situation. Maybe one was spying on the other. Okay. Maybe there was an affair. Someone's kiss was on someone else's lips. There was a love triangle. That's what I want. Hall and Oates. So firstly, the fact that Hall and Oates, again, don't live in one big house together and aren't the best of friends. Like, I can't even deal with it. Right? I mean, even in the classic scene in Step Brothers, where Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly become best friends, they play a Hall and Oates song. Like, Hall and Oates are Starsky and Hutch. They just, no, I'm telling you, run the tapes. It's there. So you go, no, these guys are the epitome of like dynamic duo. Why would they ever fight? You're hoping for scandal. Oh, Dory, it's boring music rights stuff.
But it's always business, isn't it? It's business.
I really try to care. Now, what surprises me is that it is John Oates who's actually trying to do in Daryl Hall, because I always thought John Oates was the more trustworthy guy. Or and Daryl Hall would try to screw him over, but it seems like John Oates is doing the screwing, right? I mean, does this play into a stereotype? Never trust a guy with a moustache.
Well, it's either the mullet or the moustache. Who do you trust more? The mullet? For sure, the mullet, right?
They both had mullets, though. They both had mullets.
And can we just say that Daryl Hall has one of the most glorious mullets from the 80s? It's like a mane.
Hall is the tall guy with the blonde hair. Oates, the little guy with the black hair. They're like Simon and Garfunkel. They had a fight, right? So why wouldn't Hall and Oates have a fight? Oh, Dory, it's such a boring story about music rights. Then they made a company that had the rights to the music rights for some reason, probably to prevent this sort of situation, so that one couldn't own the rights over the other, but then one's trying to, Dory, it's so out of touch, this whole story. And it did not make my dreams come true.
I can't go for that. I just no can do.
Fantastic. I feel we need a song segue. That is definitely the most interesting thing about this whole story. Fun with puns on that 80s show, but we're going to the 90s because Dory said, can I do a 90s movie
No, that's next.
Next week. Oh.
Next week. We're not going to the 90s yet.
This part.
Although my movie dips into the 90s.
Well, before you dip, what we do on that 80s show is that we talk about movies from the 1980s. We remind people about them. Sometimes we've watched them. Sometimes it's come into our world. Sometimes about the 80s. We take one each week. I teased a few weeks ago, Dory's going to love my movie. Am I going to love yours, Dory? Let's go.
Well, so mine is a documentary about something that started in the 80s. So it's not a movie from the 80s. It's not a movie about the 80s as such, but it is about a phenomenon that began in the 80s and went into the 90s, which is why I said we dip in. How much of a fan of Calvin and Hobbes are you?
I never quite got it. I can't say I'm the biggest fan. I'm aware of it. But in the pantheon of Peanuts, Garfield, Andy Capp, Hagar the Horrible, you kind of see where you're starting to fit in here. So I'd only read it because it was there, not because I would, like remember on Sunday, you'd get the Sunday Times magazine inside the newspaper, and then you'd go to the middle where the comic books were, and they were in color on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And, brilliant. They got so many Garfield, Andy Capp, Peanuts. I'd read all of those. And Calvin and Hobbes was there. I was like, okay, I'll read it because it's comics, but I didn't go for it.
But you weren't like it. A crazy obsessed fan.
No,
me neither. Me neither. What little Calvin and Hobbes I've read over the years, I have liked, but I am not one of those obsessive fans. But I stumbled upon this documentary called Dear Mr. Watterson Bill Watterson, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes. This guy set out and made a documentary called Dear Mr. Watterson. This guy is one of those obsessive Calvin and Hobbes changed my life people. And he made this documentary, which...
Only one in the world, I'm sure.
No. This is a cult, hey? This is a cult that we are not part of. But it's a very cool documentary. It made me definitely more interested in reading more Calvin and Hobbes. It's very cool. What I loved about it was it actually just taught me a lot about the general world of comics, which I didn't know a lot about. And it was really, really, really interesting. So just to give you the context, Calvin and Hobbes launched in 1985 as a comic in the newspapers back in those days. And it really took off. It became like this huge success. It ran until 1995, so 10 years. And the creator, Bill Watterson, was very different to other comic creators in many ways. First of all, he is still alive. He is 65 years old, but he's a complete recluse. He does not go anywhere. He does not talk to people. He does not do interviews. So when I was watching the documentary, I was kind of like, oh, will they get hold of him? Will they find him? Will they speak to him? Spoiler alert, they do not. Do not expect that. But it's still a very cool docu. First of all, the guy who makes the docu looks like Calvin. Literally, he's like a grown-up version of Calvin. And I mean, he points it out. It's like quite funny. That's also why he related so strongly to Calvin as a kid, because there's a resemblance. It's quite bizarre.
To some people who may not know Calvin and Hobbes, give a quick snapshot of what the comic was about.
Okay, so basically, it's this little blonde kid and his toy tiger, but in his imagination, this stuffed tiger is actually a real tiger and is alive and talks to him and does cool things. So it's also a really beautiful expression of children's imagination. And I mean, the more I saw of the docu, like where they showed specific comics where there's quite a lot of meaning in some of them. Like it's not just a frivolous, I mean, I don't know, what could we compare it to? Other comics that are just for fun. This one had quite a lot of deep meaning, which is also why I think it resonated with so many people and did so well. But one of the interesting things about it, they talk to other comics, like I say, and the woman who's in charge of the Charles Schulz Foundation, Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts, which was one of the biggest, most successful American comics. And one of the things that made Peanuts so huge was its merchandising.
Yes.
Now, Bill Watterson
hoping you're going to bring this up because I know this.
Bill Watterson refused to let Calvin and Hobbes become a merchandising enterprise. He was like, no, the comic is itself. It doesn't leave the comic. It is itself and it is nothing else. Because
that's where you make your money, right? In anything is the merchandising. George Lucas is the guy that figured this out, right? Is that goes because you're not going to make a lot of money from comics. They get paid very little. You can make a book every now and again, but that's also, you make your real money from toys, comic books, movie rights, video games. That's where you're really, really going to make your money. And he was notoriously like, no, my comic is my art. No. And actually left a lot of money on the table over it.
It's been estimated that he probably lost out on $300 to $400 million by refusing to merchandise.
And that's outrageous. That's a lot of money. Stupid. Moronic decision.
No, I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's stupid. I kind of get it. If you watch the documentary, you kind of understand that it was this important thing for him and it wasn't about making money necessarily.
So, Dory,
you'd have to watch
let us talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this humble award-winning podcast that we now host, right? So no, we don't want to make any money out of it. We've legitimately had this conversation. When there was a conversation ages ago about sponsorship, we're like, you know what? Like, we don't need to make money out of it, so why would we want to have a sponsor and, have to answer to them and things like that? But Dory, right now, if somebody came to us and said, okay, listen, sign over the rights of that 80 show for Paulo and Dory action figures, I'm signing that.
That's because you love action figures and you would love an action figure of yourself.
Again, we go back to the part where don't clip the part where I pleasured myself over last Christmas with an action figure of myself. Do not clip those pieces.
Out of context, Paulo.
Yes. Oh, that's one of the special lines. That's one of the special permutations of my action figure. Out of context Paulo, because there'll be the Paulo. Then there'll be out of context Paulo. The fuck's he doing there? Why is he wearing a chef's hat and Bionic 6 glove? What's going on? Out of context Paulo. It's the new one.
It's your superhero character. So unfortunately, I mean, I've seen it on movies and stuff like that, like Hobbs toys, plush toys, but they're not official. They're completely, call them counterfeit if you want. They're not official. He never gave permission for them. He also never gave permission for a TV animation show to be made. Because think of so many comics that turned into TV shows and movies, Peanuts, Garfield, etc. Think of Garfield. Some of the stuff was good. A lot of it was not. Well,
that's the thing. You also you lose control once you sign over a license. Is that whoever owns that license can do whatever they want with it. Yeah. So I suppose he didn't want that.
So I think what he did was admirable, and he didn't want the money because he wanted to keep the art pure. And it's what's so cool. There's a scene in the documentary where the guy goes to the library in the town where Bill lives. I think he still lives there. And he gets hold of like original cartoons. As in, before they shrunk down for the newspaper, they're really big. They're like A3 size. And they're beautiful. They literally are artworks. It's so cool to see them. So I just enjoyed the documentary, first of all, because I'm not the biggest Calvin and Hobbes fan. So I was learning and going, this is actually cool. I must maybe look into it more. And also just the whole, industry and art around animation is just fascinating, actually. So I highly recommend it. And yes, it's a phenomenon that started in the 80s, even though I only discovered it many years later.
What would interest me is that, yes, so obviously now Mr. Watterson is still alive. What happens when he passes on and his estate, those kids that sit there going, yeah, but look at the Peanuts guys. Look how much money they have. They got Apple TV money, right? Like, we want some of that. I'm telling you, the bun fight comes when his kids go.
Well, who's in charge of the estate? I mean, if it's his kids, they will know what his wishes are. But you're saying that they're going to just get greedy and they're going to go against his wishes? Is that what you're predicting?
I think it's very difficult to understand what your morals will be when you get $500 million put in front of you. Say, we want to make a video game. Sign there. I think it's going to be a very difficult conversation. It'd be great if they don't, but we all know, we've all seen this before.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's actually interesting what you say.
Thanks for depressing
that's
me.
Why. But, well, that's what I do. Maybe that's why I don't have that association with Calvin and Hobbes, because all the others that I spoke about, Blondie and Dagwood, all of them were franchised or licensed. So they all had TV shows, they all had movies, they all had so the comic came off the page, right? And you could watch them and see them and put them on your Betamax videotapes and have T-shirts of them. So you had a bit of a different conversation instead of them just being this black and white thing that you saw every now and again. So maybe that's why. Some people have such a deep connection with them, and on the other hand, maybe that's why they're kind of like not as big as, because I do know a lot of people love them. And I've seen like things, I'm sure they talk about in the documentary, of how the relationship between Calvin and Hobbes like deals with issues like depression and multiple personality disorder or multiple personalities. And a lot of those things, they say, it's all written into Calvin and Hobbes and it's intentional. So
are you not thinking of Winnie the Pooh? Winnie the Pooh has
set of Winnie the Pooh as well. Yeah, but it's set of Calvin and Hobbes as well.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely deep things. And I mean, a lot of these super fans that he speaks to on the documentary did speak of like how, they had very difficult childhoods and the comic kind of saved them. So definitely there's that link. Sure.
That thing's all happening. So that's a great documentary. What, Dory, finding or looking for Mr. Watterson? Finding Mr. Watterson.
Dear Mr. Watterson, actually.
Neither of those. Dear Mr. Watterson.
Yes, and the reason it's called that is because he constantly started writing him letters and that kind of just never really got around to, well, I think eventually he did get around to like completing a letter, but he started writing him many letters in his youth where he just wanted to, say, I love your work, kind
just
of
be
vibe.
friends. Exactly. That's great. So I'm going to make a documentary called Dear Mr. Anders. And I'm going to track down Thomas Anders in Pretoria. And that's
Or will he track you down from the sounds of it?
Hey, he slid into my DMs, Dory. It's coming.
It's going to be on your tombstone. It's going to be on your tombstone. He allows Paulo Diaz. Thomas Anders slid into his DMs.
Merchandise that. So I have got a great movie for you. When I'm going to start listing off the cast, you've definitely watched this movie. Now, this movie comes out in 1986, right? So I would have watched it. So, back in the 80s, South Africa, you maybe didn't watch the movies as they came out. There was a bit of a delay. You maybe watched it. I would have watched it about 9 or 10 years old, right? So funny that you bring up comic books, because a big device in this movie, the main character is a guy who's just finished high school, and he kind of doesn't know what he's a basketball player, and he doesn't get a scholarship. So it's kind of like, I don't know what to do now. I thought I was going to get a scholarship. I just need to get some time away. But he's also a cartoonist, right? And he draws comics. And his friend says, listen, I'm going to down to the Martha's Vineyard. So it's a smaller place, but everyone's heard of Martha's Vineyard. My grandmother stays there. Come with me for the summer. Cool, I'm going. I need to just get away from all the shit, the non-scholarship, whatever. And he tells his story through drawing comics, right? So, and through it, they'll have these like little cutaways where there's a little animated sequence with his little comic book and his characters, and he depicts himself as a rhino. And I loved that. I was like, oh my God, it's like comics. It's like, that's awesome. That's awesome to see in a movie, right? You're at that age. Then you add in the fact that Bobcat Goldthwait is in this movie as well, okay? And it's not Police Academy. And I'm going, oh God, there is a movie that I'm about to watch that has comics in it, cartoons, and it has Bobcat Goldthwait, right? So I'm like, that's fantastic. So that's Bobcat Goldthwait for me. For you, I've got John Cusack, right?
Ooh, yes.
So he had just done Better Off Dead. He had just done Better Off Dead. Okay, this came out a year after that, right? Where was John Cusack roundabout here? So he had done Better Off Dead in 1985. Then he did Stand By Me in 1986. So he was still a few years away from Say Anything. So he was kind of like this guy. You knew something was up about him, right? Stand By Me, obviously, big movie. So I give you John Cusack, very young. He's the guy, his name's Hoops. He's the basketball player. Does not look anything like a basketball player. Like, John Cusack's not an athletic looking guy. Okay, you're not going to confuse him for a scholarship getting athlete. So he now goes off with his friend, and they're going down to Martha's Vineyard to forget about all this. They're going to have a summer away. On the trip, they meet this girl who's like, you can see she's kind of bohemian, kind of free spirit, and she's played by Demi Moore. Okay? And now Demi Moore, we know her. She's Brat Pack, but again, she's not gone on to superstardom. But again, she's something. So you got John Cusack, you got Demi Moore, you go, wow, these are really two young, great characters, great actors, actresses. And she's now caught in something. She's stolen some money from a biker gang, which never actually gets revisited in the movie again. It's just a plot point for them to meet each other. And then they give her a lift down to Martha's Vineyard because that's where she's going. Because she's going down there because this evil property developer wants to buy her grandmother's house so that he can build a resort there. Okay? Typical 80s shenanigans. The movie is called One Crazy Summer.
I honestly don't think I've seen it.
Directed by Savage Steve Holland, who also directed Better Off Dead. So it's kind of like a spiritual sequel because it's very similar, got some weird macabre, John Cusack constantly looking sad about his life. It's got everything that you need from an 80s movie, Dory. It's got overly violent bullies. Now, the main bully in this ends up, we see him a couple of years later in Major Dad. It's got Jeremy Piven. What John Cusack movie doesn't have Jeremy Piven? They're best friends. Do you know
Are
that?
they?
John
No.
Cusack and Jeremy Piven, they're best friends. All right?
Huh.
So he's in it. He's one of the bullies. So, and then Bobcat Goldthwait, he's got a twin brother. They're the two idiots in the town. They work for their dad, who's the mechanic. They're just comic relief. Demi Moore is very raspy. She's a singer, and she's not trying to save money or raise money to save a grandmother's house. There is a blonde lady with big boobs who's now trying to seduce everybody as all part of an elaborate evil scheme. It's got a fantastic, heartwarming ending. It involves in a boat race. It ends in a boat race. It's just
Definitely
so
haven't
80s.
seen it. I haven't
Dory.
seen it. Oh my God, this is so exciting.
So many shenanigans, so many nothing that would work in real life. There's they do something with a Ferrari, but it's not. It's got Booger in it from Revenge of the Nerds as well. He's also in it. So, but he's very sad. He's not Booger. I didn't like that. Oh, that was the other thing that I loved about it. Like, now you're throwing Booger into the mix. Bobcat Goldthwait. What am I watching? But he's quite disappointing because he's very sad. He's got a lot of angst. Like I say, there's a regatta. It's a fantastic movie, Dory. You got to watch it. One crazy summer.
You don't like John Cusack.
But my love for Bobcat Goldthwait overpowers.
Overrode it.
Exactly. You see. So you can kind of go Bobcat Goldthwait at that stage in anything. I'm watching it. One crazy summer movie recommendations. Both good ones, Dory. One cerebral.
Yeah.
One just throw away. Just throw away. Of course, John Cusack went on to do great things, according to Dory. I wouldn't be quoted on that. Not a fan. Not a fan of him.
Just not a fan. But it's okay. No. Don't have to love everything I love. It's all good. Yep.
But how much do we both cumulatively love Stock Aitken Waterman songs?
Depends. Depends who they buy.
Right. So Stock Aitken Waterman, they were hit machines in the 80s. They just knew how to churn out bubblegum. They were literally a hit factory. They figured out a formula in the music. They figured out it was like the rise of pop radio, music videos. They just everything at the right time, and they figured out this perfect formula to just churn out hits, right? Now, I mean, Dory, you can name them. Just give the top Stock Aitken Waterman acts.
Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Rick Astley.
Those are the top ones. Everyone knows them.
Those are the top ones.
What we're going to do is we're going to go through a fantastic article on The Guardian where they ranked the 20 greatest Stock Aitken Waterman songs. They were a producer-songwriting trio. And it wasn't just the music that they knew. They knew the distribution. They knew how to get their songs played on radio. They knew that radio play means record sales. They knew how to do bubblegum pop. They knew how to have people looking at track. Everything. Album cover designs. They just 100% cracked it. I think like Simon Cowell took over from them with the whole boy band, girl band craze. They were like, and Simon Cowell even says he's copied a lot of what they did. They just knew how to make hits. They just completely industrialized it. So I'm going to go through 20 of their songs. Now, there is a very helpful Spotify playlist. We are going to link to it, that 80 Show SA on Facebook. Some of them off the name, you're not going to know it, but you got to go back and listen. Number 20 was a song called I'd Rather Jack by the Reynolds Girls.
I remember that well.
The crazy thing about that song is that they like talk shit about Fleetwood Mac, Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, and heavy metal, and that music from the past, and they'd rather Jack. Now, I don't know what Jack means, okay? But it's definitely
I'm sure it has multiple meanings.
It's definitely like a counterculture song of going, no. That's 70s shit. We don't want that anymore. We're going to Jack. Radio now belongs to Stock Aitken Waterman. Here's another one from 1993, not an 80s song, Sybil, When I'm Good and Ready. Ugh, what a song that is. Stock Aitken Waterman, they released their own song. And when you see them, you realize why they put their brains behind other people's faces and bodies. They released a song called Roadblock. Okay. And it wasn't poppy at all. It was funk. It was a 70s sounding funk song. So bizarre. So bizarre. Okay. A couple of that I don't know. Love is War by Brilliant. Looking Good, Diving with the Wild Bunch by Morgan McVeigh. Now, I'll tell you something. Oh, this song in particular. So listen to this song. One of the weirdest moments in SAW's catalog, on the B-side of Morgan McVeigh's solitary flop single, they didn't always make hits, was a flop. But the reason this one's notable, it was a version featuring a rap by a band member and Cameron McVeigh's future wife, Nana Cherry. A year later, they polished that up and released it as Buffalo Stance, which that's one of the coolest songs of the 80s, Buffalo Stance, right?
So one of my absolute favorites, yeah.
Oh, one of the best, right? Oh, I just can't wait. Mandy Smith, we know that one. Happening all over again, we know that one. Here comes Kylie Minogue. Je ne sais pas pourquoi. Je ne sais pas. I can't say French. She released the song. It was French. It was a French name.
Yeah.
It's one that she wanted to. Hazel Dean, Who's Leaving Who? Love that song.
Oh, of course. Classic.
First appearance here by Bananarama, I Heard a Rumor. Now, Dori, you're going to remember this one. Do you remember the artist Divine?
Yes.
You Think You're a Man?
Yes.
It's a fabulously tone-deaf vocal snare for this high camp lyric. You Think You're a Man is completely preposterous and entirely irresistible. There's something almost punk about how little it seems to care. Because Divine was how would you have described Divine? A man dressed as a woman.
Politically correctly or non-politically correctly?
I don't know. I don't want to get into that.
Because in the 80s, I imagine that Divine was described as a cross-dressing performer, drag artist, perhaps. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I think drag artist is still acceptable.
But like with a totally butch, massive male voice, and in no way trying to not be a massively male voice. So this one, Princess, Say I'm Your Number One. Again, these are all songs that you've heard, but maybe just off the name you don't know. Donna Summer, they produced Donna Summer, This Time You Know It's For Real. Or This Time I Know It's For Real.
Huh.
They did that one, yeah. Of course, now we start getting into the SAW staples.
The big hits, yeah.
Kylie Minogue, What Do I Have to Do? Mel and Kim, Respectable. One of your favorites. Bananarama again, Love in the First Degree. Kylie Minogue again, Better the Devil You Know. Number 3, Mel and Kim. For all the artists they had, Mel and Kim, number 3 showing out. Get Fresh at the Weekend. That's the one we do know. Now, we're heading into the last 2. We're talking about the 20 biggest Stock Aitken Waterman songs. You said Rick Astley earlier, right?
Yes.
You've got to imagine that Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, is going to be number 1.
Is it number 2?
Ooh, they throw a switcheroo, Dory, because yes, it is number 2. You know which they rank number 1 Stock Aitken Waterman song?
Can I guess?
I love it. I don't disagree. Go for it.
I'm going to guess either The Locomotion by Kylie or something by Jason Donovan.
Jason Donovan not even in this list.
Oh, okay, good.
I think Jason Donovan came as a Kylie deal because they're kind of like, shit, if we don't give the boyfriend a record deal, we're not going to get Kylie. So just give him stuff.
But he really can't sing. Like, really?
No.
Really?
Great looking guy. You will never guess number 1.
Okay. Is it not Kylie?
Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round.
OMG.
Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round.
Well, I mean, no wonder, because that was humongous. That was huge. Although, was it bigger than Rick Astley at the time? Interesting.
Saw began their career in the shadow of Trevor Horn's epic Frankie Goes to Hollywood productions. Offering a tin pot relaxed pastiche on their first single, the upstroke by Agents on Airplanes, and parodying Two Tribes on Divine's You Think You're a Man. So there was like a whole bunch of stuff that they liked, but they kind of like parodied and made fun of it. But on You Spin Me Around, they matched Horn's work, less melodically sugary than their previous high-energy influence tracks, which is true. It is a breathlessly exciting single. It kicks straight in, and it does. You Spin Me Around comes at you straight away. There's no build-up.
Yeah.
The rhythm track is relentless. Pete Burns' imperious vocals growls and soars, and the chorus permanently lodges in your brain on first hearing. It's commercial pop music that captures small hours dance floor hedonism and hysteria. That is a description of a song.
That is very good writing, I have to say.
It's The Guardian. So that is them ranking Dead or Alive's You Spin Me Round as their number 1 Stock Aitken Waterman song. The link with the whole playlist. is on. We'll put the link to it on that 80 Show SA Facebook page. That's great. It's holiday season. You want some great songs, add that to your playlist. It's a great list, and it actually makes you realize like how impactful they were on 80s music. It wasn't just all Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan duets, thankfully. This has been that 80s show. It's your favorite 80s podcast. It's a perfect accompaniment to Last Christmas. So listen to Last Christmas before, listen to this, and go and listen to Last Christmas. Don't forget, this is the season of Last Christmas. So many things. You got to find links. We're going to put up the link to tickets for Thomas Anders, where you can buy tickets. Trust me, I'll keep you updated on how our friendship's going and when I get that invite to Sandra's Ibiza island. Mm-hmm. If the Hall and Oates story gets more interesting, we will tell you that, but we very much doubt it. And some great movie recommendations. We didn't even get to like a weird Sting story about Every Breath You Take, which Dory found. But
next week,
more. Subscribe next week. Subscribe so you get all that stuff. Everyone's going off on holidays. You can feel it. You can already see. Can we pick this up in 24? I love when I get an email like that. Thanks for joining me, Dory. Goodbye.
Bye.